I've lived in New Jersey my entire life, and I know lots of interesting people. Artists, musicians, actors, business owners, and politicians. So my goal is to introduce some of the most interesting people who have ties to New Jersey. Either they live here, they work here, they went to school here, whatever tie I can think of. And yeah, maybe they're not so famous, even in New Jersey. But I'm going to change that because I'm Lucille Losapio, and this is Not So Famous in New Jersey. She's an actor, a singer, a writer, a video producer and editor. She's an entrepreneur and probably the only person you'll ever meet that can find the positive side of cancer. Her Shine concept helped her get through her own personal ordeal, but it also is a roadmap that she has followed in life and that maybe you want to consider as well. Nika Stewart really is a cockeyed optimist. I am here today with Nika Stewart. So now, Nika, you're a real triple threat.
Oh, am I? What are
You're
the triples?
You're an actor, a singer, and a writer.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's not the traditional triple threat, but that's what you are.
Okay.
And of course, you've just published your book.
I did.
And it's about your odyssey from breast cancer to health, which actually became, if I may read from the back of your book, a journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
Yes, it was. And yet, my hope is that the book is a journey of discovery for other people rather than you just reading about my self-discovery. The point of it was to share how it can inspire you to get through a tough time.
Nobody can change their past unless they've figured out how to do time travel, which of course would really disrupt the space-time continuum.
Yes, as we know.
But if you could, what is the one thing you could have done in the past that would have made your life completely different right now?
This is a tough one. I think I always wish that I stepped into confidence earlier. I always doubted myself and felt insecure. Not always, but I feel like for too long in my life, I didn't trust myself.
So what are some things that you might have done?
Probably things having to do with performing. I think having had more experiences on bigger stages would have been amazing.
I think when you're older, there isn't as much competition.
Interesting. So
You know, when you're in your
time.
20s, everybody's trying to be an actor. By the time you get to
Yeah.
your 50s, 60s, 70s, like, I've given up, you know.
And not a lot of people. You're right. So maybe this is the time for us to get into it. So let's do it.
Yes.
Thank you for the inspiration.
It's funny because I found out that Gary, something like his 8th great-grandfather, was the guy who organized the Mayflower sailing.
You really can find that
Yes.
out. The cool story that I have is that I learned a few years ago that a relative had twins maybe 60 years ago and put them up for adoption. They just found each other. That's a story that's coming out in a book where they found each other, fell immediately in love with each other and knew that they were like they had everything in common, and then suddenly one was diagnosed and so she lost her sister. It's just so fun to have more family that you didn't know about.
Every musician that I've spoken to talks about the abysmal state of live music. But your band Backtrack seems to get a lot of gigs.
We're not doing it for, for fame or
living,
money or a living, right? So it's a hobby, really. And maybe because of that, we get more gigs because we're not stressed out. It's not that important. We do it for fun.
Yeah.
I just love doing it and just for the fun. I don't really enjoy the gigs as much if I don't have friends and family there.
Yeah.
So
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that video.
So I mean, I love singing. I love playing out.
Yeah.
But I'd prefer if people I know are there. So.
Comedian Dave Chappelle, he once said that a comedian is really two people. The onstage person and the offstage person. And that could also apply to a singer or anyone who gets on the stage to entertain. So tell me, who is the real Nika Stewart? The onstage person or the offstage person?
That's a really good question. I feel like I'm getting better at it, but I've struggled with that question. I think it's also true as an introvert, which I know I am, and most people, if they see me perform, you think of a performer as being an extrovert, but I really am not. I need downtime. I need to be alone. Being with lots of people and performing is, I feel like I'm on. It's that energy of being on, and then I need to turn off. And I feel like those are two people. And I used to think that the real me was the off, the quiet, the shy, the be by myself, and the on was pretend. But that's not true.
Yeah.
I think both of them are me. I mean, if I'm an actress and I'm performing a part, that's not me. But when I sing and I perform, that is me. And when I'm alone in my room and reading a book, that is me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all us.
As you know, I also went through breast cancer, but I was lucky to only need a lumpectomy. Reading your book, I find that we met the challenge very similarly. For example, we both use a lot of humor, which sometimes made people look at me weird and go, "You think that's funny? Like, how can you laugh about that?" But do you think people get uncomfortable when you talk about the bright side of having cancer or when you laugh about it?
I'm sure that they do, but I almost don't notice it. I know I was worried about it originally, and I decided to look at find the funny, I call it. So I lost my hair, but it's really funny that I keep reaching for my hair. So that's funny, and I want to share that. I thought, what if people say to me, "How could you laugh at that?" But I quickly thought to myself, but this is I'm going through this. I am not making fun of someone.
Right.
I'm not even making fun of cancer. I'm
making fun of yourself.
Yeah, I'm making fun of the fact that I just reached up to pull my hair out of my shirt and there's no hair there.
Yeah.
That I'm making fun of. I'm not making fun of cancer. Yeah. So I'm just cool laughing at it.
But when I went for my second opinion, he's examining me and he goes, "Well, your right breast is perfect." I'm like, "Doctor, I've been told they both are." And he just cracked up. Now, obviously, dealing with breast cancer and major surgeries and everything that went along with it was quite a challenge for you. But you reveled in the adversity, according to your book.
Yes.
and according to what I saw. Aside from this whole chapter of your life, what other times have you had to deal with major adversity, and how did you do it?
I feel like it's relative and it's also personal. And I will say that I am just so blessed that I can't think of major adversities and challenges in my life.
Well, for one thing, you had a really crummy roommate in college.
Well, that's true. And so when I talk about challenges, there are things like that. Like, yeah, my first year going away to college was challenging because it was a change of life. It's like moving and divorce, things like that are changes in lifestyle. And so those have been my adversity. I need to knock on wood. People say, well, going through cancer was a huge adversity, but I have to admit that for me, it felt so much easier than what it could have been. I felt like going through that illness and the treatments was so much easier than having to worry about someone else, a loved one going through it. So when my boyfriend, when I was 28 years old, my boyfriend had a massive heart attack. I wanted to live the rest of my life with this man, and he had a massive heart attack. He didn't die, but for several weeks and then several months, I was petrified.
Sure.
That to me was harder than me going through cancer treatments for a year and a half.
Yeah, and I think that's true. Like when someone that you love, has some major adversity, I think it affects you more because there's nothing you can do about it. Granted, your own cancer is out of your control too, but it's still yours.
Yeah, and the cancer or any circumstance in life, we have no control over that. But what we have complete control over is our thoughts about it, the stories we tell ourselves, the way we feel. It's hard when someone else is going through something to say to them, well, just think different things. I know I can control my thoughts. I can't control your thoughts.
Right,
so,
right.
As a mom, when my daughter is sad, and I've heard this always from moms, like, I would rather have the pain than you have the pain. Yeah. And my mom said to me, going through cancer, I wish it was me. And I said, that's very selfish of you. I'm very selfish, and I'm glad that it's me and not you. And some of my sharing the humor and being positive, I believe, was to help my loved ones see that I was okay.
Yeah, I can see that. When I had breast cancer, 2001, I made a list of everybody that I felt I could depend on. And then I would use email to communicate, to let them know what was going on. So you found a way to deal with your whole situation, your breast cancer, your mastectomy, your surgeries, your lymphedema, and all of that by turning to social media. And you were able to increase your circle of support, which is great. I know that using social media was a net positive for you, but what was the downside of being so public about your journey and really opening it up to the world?
The downside, the one thing I can say is if you open up in a big way and you grow your visibility, you are opening yourself up to people who they're called trolls, people who are not so nice. So although I would say honestly, shockingly, 99.9% of my engagement was positive. And I say shockingly because that's usually not the case. Yeah. I think because when someone is going through cancer, it's not like someone is saying, saying, look how great I am. And then the people want to knock you down. People tend to not want to knock down someone going through cancer. But I did have, I can't believe this is true, but I literally got tens of thousands of comments, and I remember the two that were nasty. I can't remember all the others.
Now, what did they say?
One person said, I did a video where I shared all of the things that I lost. I lost my breasts, I lost my hair, I lost my eyelashes, I lost my strength. And at the end I said, but I didn't lose my smile. And I smiled with my bald head and no eyelashes.
Oh, that's a horrible smile.
Right, no. Yes, that's what someone said. Your smile is, and they put the emoji of like nausea and throwing up. And it's hysterical, and it didn't make me feel bad about myself.
It probably made you laugh, right? You're like, you asshole.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of thing. And I realized that my instinct always is to write back something nasty.
Yeah.
But the last few times that I had gotten in the last year or two, if someone wrote something not so nice, I have learned to write something like, I'm so sorry you're in so much pain. And specifically 2 times in the last year that I did that, both people wrote back and said, I'm so sorry, I apologize, I wasn't feeling good and I took it out on you. It's I mean, it gives me chills, because if we actually, in life, if someone is nasty, usually it's because they're going through something. We don't have time to stop and think about that. We just want to strike back out at them.
Yeah. When I was diagnosed and didn't know if I'd need a mastectomy, I immediately started to consider the possibility that I would have to have reconstruction. They would take tissue from my abdomen, which would mean I'd get a tummy tuck. So I was like so looking forward to that. Yeah. And then I was so disappointed when I didn't need a mastectomy because I couldn't get that tummy tuck. Now, so I understand your attitude. I struck a chord when I was reading that. So what are some examples of how you kind of flipped the story on being grateful for what was happening to you?
When I did realize that I needed a mastectomy and then it turned into a double mastectomy, my first thought, instead of I'm going to lose my breasts, and they were the best breasts in the door, and I was proud of them, and I had worked out and I felt good, but my thought was, I'm at the time was 51 years old, and now because I will need reconstruction, I can have 18-year-old perky boobs, and that is what I decided to look forward to.
Yeah.
So to me, that was my shine. I call it, turning wine to shine, and this is my shine, my new perky boobs.
Perfect segue, because my next question is, tell me a little bit about the whole shine concept.
Well, shine is,
It came from your bald head, right? I mean, that's...
The bald head actually joined the community. I had a podcast called Shine years ago. I have a company. My brand is Shine 365, because you're going to shine 365 or 66 days a year. And really, it's about the fact that the world is waiting for our uniqueness, and why should we hide it? We need to shine our brilliance in the world, and our perception of the things that we think we should hide those things are probably the things that make us superheroes. And those are the things we're most uncomfortable with are the things that make us the most awesome. And when you start sharing them, you start feeling so much better, because you stop feeling shame and uncomfortable, and life just becomes better.
And the letters stand for?
S is for seek the silver linings. H is heal with humor. I is immerse in creativity. N is narrate your journey, which to me means you get to write your own story. You get to choose how you describe what you're going through in any way, and your words do matter, and they can make a big difference in your life. And E is embrace the challenge. That is, I think, a little confusing. It's like something terrible happens, and typically our first instinct is to fight the adversity. The next thing that people say is if you can start to accept, and that's in the stages of adversity, accept is one of the final ones. And I think accept is not the end too, because accepting sometimes means, well, okay, then I've lost hope. I've accepted that this terrible thing is in my life. But if you can go a step past acceptance into actually embracing it, that's where people said I was crazy. I actually said, I love cancer. Everyone says F cancer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why I'm not using the word, because I don't curse a lot, but
F
cancer.
Well, fuck
Screw
that.
you, fuck cancer. Okay. But they're that's like the phrase that everyone says. Yeah, you're such a fighter. You should go fight it and screw cancer. But I embraced it and made it my friend.
Well, and I say, welcome to the Cancer Club.
Yeah, well, yay.
Yeah,
but then people say it's it's a, a wonderful club that you never wanted to be in. And while that's true, I also say, if we don't embrace adversities, we will never grow. So thank God for adversity.
By the way, I forgot to mention, your book is Actually I Can.
Yes, it is.
So you and I met as actors, and we've done a lot of acting together on stage as well as off. So how did your talent as an actor influence the way you dealt with your ordeal?
For me, part of the creativity that helped me get through the challenging time, my mind went to kind of playing parts and acting things out and making videos, like performing for myself. Now, at first, creating videos about my journey was for me. I created videos to document what I was going through because I knew that I would get through it and I'd want to look back on it. And then I started posting the videos. There was a good response. People were saying, oh, this makes me smile, which fueled my creativity. I'm like, oh, if people like it, I will make more. And then I wanted to play parts, and I would there's a part of Nika walking in the room and there's cancer sitting on the chair. And so I got to play parts in my videos, singing songs. I got to write music about having 35 wigs and then deciding to just go bald. And, so it was just for me, that part of like having the talent fueled the creativity, which helped me really enjoy getting through, tough days, knowing that this feels tough, I feel icky, but if my mind goes to what kind of video can I create from this, all of a sudden I didn't feel so bad.
And wasn't it kind of nice to have the permission to do nothing?
Oh, yes. That was part of the silver lining for me. If I have to have a double mastectomy and then they said for 6 weeks you can't go on your computer. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to do that. And they're like, no, please don't lift your arms. And I'm like, so then I actually get to watch the entire series of Downton Abbey that I've been thinking about for years. Yeah, I always felt guilty doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure to do nothing.
Yeah, I just went for radiation and I had to go 5 days a week. And the doctors said kind of as an offhanded, well, you probably shouldn't, you should probably not go into work on Friday because you're going to be tired. I'm like, well, I have to take doctor's orders.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I said, I can't come into work on Fridays. And so Friday, because you are tired, you know.
Definitely.
By the end of the week. So Friday was like my special day because everybody else was working, and I didn't have to check emails or voicemails or anything else. Gary, could you get me a...
Yes, It is nice. It's nice to have people pamper you, and I do. Like even in the last year, even it's been a few years, but I still have had like reconstruction and reconstruction of the reconstruction. So any of those surgeries, my mind goes to, well, at least I get to lay in bed and be pampered for a little while.
Yeah. Your book addresses the whole idea of setbacks being blessings. I was in a major car accident 3 days after I moved in with Gary. But that accident gave me the opportunity to not go to work for 4 months. And I was in a job that I really hated at the time. So it was like people would go like, oh, it's so bad. I'm like, no, it's not bad. No, it's really pretty good. So talk to me about some of those setbacks that you actually saw as blessing. And maybe not even just this journey, but just in your life in general.
I think that anything that happens that seems like a setback, a challenge, something comes up, and it's not when, if that happens, it's when. And we have many every single day. Some of them are as little as like, oh, I thought I had sugar and I don't have any and I'm annoyed. And as big as something like losing a loved one or getting a horrible disease. So and everywhere in between. So challenges run the gamut of tiny to huge. I have always thought that because I practiced the idea of seeing setbacks as opportunities, even when they were tiny. And I always think of, as an entrepreneur, I need to have clients in order to be successful. And if I lose a client, that's terrible. I lost all this money. It means I'm not making money this month. And I would try always with something like that. Like I lost a client. Is it terrible, or what is good about this? And I would practice. I would say, well, okay, so that gives me actually 3 extra hours a week to spend more time with my daughter and be a more hands-on mom, to take an extra hour a week and do outreach and get a bigger and better client, to create a new program. And now I feel happy, and that leads to me actually being motivated to go and grow my business bigger. So, and that is tiny compared to the fact that I just got a cancer diagnosis. But because I practice with, I stubbed my toe and that hurts, why is that a good thing? All the way up to, why is cancer a good thing? I think because I practiced, it made it easy and quicker for me to find the humor and the silver linings and the joy in something that's really, really tough. And I still have to practice, and I try my hardest. Like recently, I've been on this medication to keep the cancer away now, and that has lots of side effects. And I recently found out that I have something else going on in my body. And my first thought was, let me try to figure out, why is this
What's
good
good
thing?
about it? Yeah.
And so the good thing is that the more you practice, the more you try to think of good things.
Yeah, and I mean, they call that making lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, I call it making margaritas out of limes.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I think I still want to be a rock and roll star. Yeah, I think that's what I want to be.
That's a good segue, because if you listen to my podcast, and pretend that you do if you don't, I always ask singers to sing a song with me.
Oh, no. Okay.
Because karaoke is my passion.
Excellent.
Which, sort of drives Gary crazy. What can we sing together? I love you more today than yesterday?
Sure. I don't remember what day it was. I didn't notice what time it was. All I know is that I fell in love with you. And if all my dreams come true, I'll be spending time with you. Oh, I love you more today than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh, we're so good.
That was mine and Gary's song.
Aww.
But of course, then he told me it was also the song with his ex-girlfriend.
Oh,
too, so,
then don't. Okay.
It seems to me that you have the makings of a motivational speaker. What's stopping you?
The motivation. Actually, you know what's stopping me is I keep saying actually, which is in the title of my book. What's stopping me is thinking that I don't know how to get those jobs. I absolutely want to speak more. I've spoken many times, and I feel like my talks are motivational and inspirational, and I want to do more of them, but I've never done them for corporations.
Yeah. Well, here's my suggestion. There's this thing called the internet.
Oh.
And if you look up, how do I become a motivational speaker? You could probably get some advice.
Oh.
I can teach you how to use the internet if you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would I heard there's like a mail on there. You can get mail on the internet.
Yeah, the internets. Yeah.
The internets.
Yeah. Before we move on to the last question, why don't you just give us a quick summary of what it is you do in your business? Because I'd like to at least give you a chance to plug that.
Thanks. Well, I help entrepreneurs find and embrace their uniqueness and then turn that into their personal brands and shine it in the world so that they feel amazing, grow a profitable business, and make a big impact in the world. And I do that through coaching and teaching and done-for-you services, and been doing that for about 15 years.
Ooh. And you helped me learn how to do some really good videos for my political campaigns.
Yes, I do. One of my favorite things is short-form videos and how to go viral.
Okay, so here's the last question. Would you rather have sex with a goat and no one finds out, or not have sex with a goat and everyone thinks you did?
Oh my gosh. The problem with that is if I had sex with a goat, I would tell everyone anyway. So, because I like to share things. So I might as well have everyone think I had sex with a goat, and then I would turn it into something fun. It's great.
Well, Nika, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Where else can you hear scintillating conversations with interesting people with ties to New Jersey, except for here? You can't, and that's why you should subscribe and listen to every episode. I'm Lucille Osapio, and this is Not So Famous in New Jersey.